That much-anticipated MyEFO report was handed down yesterday. Business as usual, a good thing, but here to analyse it, the hardest working and most effective member of the government's economic team, some would say, Finance Minister Senator Matthias Cormann in his hometown of Perth. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be back.
I'm going to try and start on a positive note. MyEFO, there was so much anticipation it was going to be terrible and the media were primed up. Now, you actually got a few ticks from unexpected quarters today. I mean, even Ross Gittins in the Sydney Morning Herald said what I said last night, not as bad as it could be. There were ticks for how it was handled in a sober, relevant way. You must have been happy with the response to what could have been quite touchy.
Well, the most important point out of MyEFO is that it shows that we are on track when it comes to repairing our budget. I mean, yes, of course. I mean, we started with a challenging situation back in September last year. Of course, global economic headwinds have added to the challenge. Of course, some of the events in the Senate have added to the challenge. But fundamentally, if you look at the progress that has been made, spending growth, of course, we've been focusing on getting spending and spending growth under control, and any additional spending decisions that we've had to make since May in the context, for example, of a heightened threat environment in relation to our national security and the like, we have more than offset by additional savings. But so, I mean, yes, there has been a deterioration in the budget bottom line, but it is essentially as a result of developments not under our direct control.
But just going to the general view, as you're saying, I mean, you say the budget's on track. Of course, the figures still show there's a bit more pain before gain. But what the commentators noticed was the different tone. For example, some have picked up on the fact that the Treasurer seems to be focusing on growth over the obsession with a surplus, for example. Has there been a subtle shift even in the rhetoric?
Well, I mean, if you remember, ever since well before the last election and all the way through since then, we've always said that we're focused on implementing our plan to build a stronger, more prosperous economy. And of course, repairing the budget is one of the planks that will help us achieve strengthening economic growth and strengthening job creation into the future. But there are many other important parts of this. And the important observation really about 2014 as we embark on 2050 towards 2015 is that economic growth in Australia in 2014 has actually been surprisingly strong given some of the global economic headwinds. It is stronger than it was the previous year. Job growth has run at about 3 times the rate as the previous year, still not high enough to, obviously be high enough in order to ensure that population growth is properly absorbed, but the effect of population growth is properly absorbed. But we are heading in the right direction, and decisions like removing the carbon tax, which has contributed to lower energy prices, the fact that we've got the interest rates at historically low levels, the fact that the Australian dollar is starting to come off, the fact that we've been able to sign up 3 new free trade agreements, the fact that we're rolling out our record infrastructure investment program. I mean, these are all things that will contribute to stronger growth, which over time will generate stronger revenue for government and help with the budget repair effort.
They're all your positives, but the one big negative is still the uncertainty over the budget. And we know that that is a lot to do with the logjam in the Senate and recalcitrant senators and opposition. But given you've got that problem, I mean, there was a front page story in the Sydney Sun Herald this weekend. They polled all the major banks in Australia, big and small, who said the uncertainty over the budget is hitting confidence. That hits our bottom line. Now, even though it's outside your control, it is affecting you. What can you do on it if you continue to face this roadblock in the Senate?
Well, I mean, we've got to focus on the positives. I mean, the truth is that we have passed more than $50 billion in savings since September last year, like savings both in the mid-year economic and fiscal outlook last year and in the budget earlier this year. Some of the more structural reforms, which don't take effect for some time, are yet to be passed. But I mean, if you look at the cost of delays and negotiations in the Senate, about 10.6 billion. 6.6 billion of that relates to the deal to repeal the mining tax. Now, that has locked in $10 billion of savings over the forward estimates, $50 billion of savings over the decade, and the cost over the forward estimates from that deal is more than offset in the period beyond the forward estimates. The short answer, Janine, is that we've just got to keep at it, and we've just got to continue to make the argument as to why budget repair is important if we want to protect living standards and build opportunity for the future.
That was what I was going to ask. I mean, even Joe Hockey's admitted it's about getting the message out. This wasn't a poll of voters. These were your main banks in Australia. Does it disturb you that they blame this budget uncertainty for so much? I mean, obviously their message is not ideal, is it?
Well, I disagree with them. I mean, there is no budget uncertainty. I mean, the budget that we delivered in May is our plan to repair the budget mess that we've inherited. It is our plan to build a stronger, more prosperous economy. It's our plan to take Australia forward. And most of it, I mean, 75% of all of the measures in the budget have passed through the Parliament. A significant proportion of the savings have passed through the Parliament. 9 out of 10 revenue measures in the budget have passed through the Parliament, or one of the 9 out of 10 measures will be implemented administratively in February. So, I mean, we are actually on track. Yes, there is much more work to be done, but we've made a good start.
Are you disappointed in business leaders? We've had the Prime Minister stay on a number of occasions, virtually plead with them, saying, you know, can you help us in this? Get the message out about the precarious situation of the budget, of the deficit and what we're facing in the future. The key problem, though, is business is just not spending. They said they would when you came to power. They're sitting on a lot of cash. A bit of investment in the economy wouldn't go astray, would it? I mean, putting their money where their mouth is?
Janine, a couple of things there. First, in terms of the first part of your question, I'm not a commentator on what business should or shouldn't do in terms of their own commentary. I leave that to them. My focus is on doing my job, which is to work closely with Joe Hockey, our Treasurer, on implementing our plan for a stronger economy and to repair the budget. Now, in terms of business decisions on where to invest, how to invest, when to invest, what to invest into, I mean, that is very much their area of responsibility. These are decisions for them to make. Obviously, we are working to set the right conditions where business leaders will have the confidence to increase investment in Australia and to help us strengthen economic growth and create more jobs.
You mentioned low interest rates. Do you think there's too much reliance on the RBA to cut rates further with all this speculation to do that work for them, that everybody wants something and thinks, well, the RBA better cut. We're not going to do anything. It's up to them to help stimulate the economy?
Well, the RBA will make its judgments independently based on its analysis of economic conditions in Australia and around the world. And I'm sure that the RBA will continue to make those decisions in exactly the right way, independently as they must. But I mean, from our point of view, from the government's point of view, we're focusing on making sure that we make the necessary decisions to ensure that Australia is the most competitive internationally that we can be, that we bring down the cost of doing business, that we boost opportunity for businesses to invest, to create jobs, to create opportunities for all Australians to get ahead. Given
everything you said earlier about how the economy wasn't that bad this year and things and Joe Hockey saying should get better, in that sense then the RBA has made it clear that they'll only cut if things get desperate. In some ways it's not a vote of confidence in the economy, it's at odds with what you're saying about the state of the economy, this speculation that we will need another cut to get the economy going again.
Well, I mean, Janine, again, I mean, the Reserve Bank will make its own decisions. But, I mean, if you look at the Australian economy right now, there's no doubt that over the past year we have faced global economic headwinds, and no doubt some of these global economic headwinds will continue into the new years. But the fundamentals in Australia are strong. And of course, the government is working to further improve on those fundamentals by bringing down the cost of doing business. That's why we got rid of these bad taxes like the carbon tax and the mining tax. tax. That's why we are cutting red tape costs for business so far by about $2 billion. That is why we've been rolling out $1 trillion in environmental approvals to get more projects off the ground. That is why we're doing all of the things that we're doing to strengthen the opportunity across the Australian economy domestically.
Yet the Treasurer, as I said he thought 2015 was going to be better. Most people are surprised by that comment, given, let's take away even the international factors, which we can't know about. But looking at Australia at the moment, what gives you this confidence? What is it that's going to be better? The mining boom isn't going to suddenly come back next year, is it?
Well, I mean, obviously, energy prices are now lower than they would have been on the back of getting rid of the carbon tax. Red tape costs for business are lower. The free trade agreements, I mean,
but that's going to take a while to get through the free trade agreement benefits, aren't they?
Not quite. Well, not quite. You know, obviously, Korea has already come into effect. Andrew Robb today put out a statement that Japan, the free trade agreement with Japan, is about to come into effect. The free trade agreement with China will deliver significant opportunities, in particular for agricultural producers right across Australia. So, I mean, all of these things add up, Janine, and when you add the record investment in job-creating, productivity-enhancing infrastructure across Australia to that, I mean, you really start ending up with a very comprehensive plan to build a stronger, more prosperous economy. And we are very confident that it will start paying dividends for the Australian community in 2015.
But aren't you learning what all your predecessors learned, that no matter what you do, how fabulous economic managers you may be, Australia is hostage to international forces. And the fact is that, as you've learnt with this latest MYEFO, they can come along and hit you. There's nothing to say. I mean, the Eurozone is looking very precarious at the moment. Greece has come out of nowhere. There's a lot of question marks internationally next year that could blindside you too, couldn't there?
Well, Janine, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, the Australian economy is exposed to external risk. There's no two ways about it. And that is why, for a very long time, we've argued that we need to get our budget back under control, because we need to ensure that we are in the most resilient position possible in the face of any challenge coming our way. But on the flip side, we also need to be in the strongest possible position to take advantage of the opportunities coming our way, because still, over the next decade and well beyond that, most of the economic growth in the world will be generated in the Asia-Pacific. Most of the economic growth in the world will be generated in our part of the world. And we need to ensure that Australia is in the most competitive, the strongest possible position to take advantage of those opportunities, while making sure that we are as resilient as possible in the face of any additional global economic headwinds that might come our way.
Now, before we run out of time, I do want to ask you about your personal campaign to get rid of quongos, as they're known, those government bodies. 175, I've seen one figure on it. Is this about saving money or just efficiency, red tape? I mean, nobody must be arguing to save a quongo, surely.
Well, it's a combination of all of the above. I mean, as a government, it's our responsibility to taxpayers to ensure that the administration and the operation of government is as efficient and as effective as possible. I mean, what we announced in MYEFO the other day was the third phase of our smaller government reform agenda. All up, the first three phases so far have delivered about $539 million in savings, but the benefit of those reforms goes well beyond mere savings to the budget bottom line. It's also designed to ensure that we improve lines of accountability, that we improve service delivery to the community, that we get rid of duplication, overlap and waste across the public sector and across the broader government sector, and of course we will continue with those efforts into the future.
Final question, given that, as I said, the Treasurer has admitted you need to get out there, you've said it and sell the message. You have been a man down. You've been doing two jobs, Assistant Treasurer. Are you going to get some help in the new year? Do you think you'll get either Senator Sinodinos back or somebody else, or, you know, do you think you can keep going with the man down?
Janine, I've got a very simple rule. I do whatever job the Prime Minister asks me to do. I do it to the best of my ability every single day, and I will continue to do so until there is a change. My future in relation to this job and any other job is entirely in the hands of the Prime Minister.
OK, so I won't ask you about treasurers or anything else. I'm going to leave you on a positive note and wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Very
You
Merry
have worked
Christmas to you
very
and to your
hard this
viewers.
year. We will
Thank
see
you.
you in the new year. That was Matthias Cormann in Perth.